Hello, welcome to Podfics Galore. I'm your horrible online reader called Skylar. I read out loud fanfictions for you busy bees, free of charge and no strings attached. Today I will continue reading the Silmarillion / Lord of the Rings fic by Bloodwing Blackbird from an archive of our own called And Now Each Night I Count the Stars. I hope you can at least try to enjoy my voice, and I will try my best for you with the equipment available to me. Note, this fic is rated explicit. On with the show. And now each night I count the stars. Chapter 14. Muckler should have known by now that embarking on a hopeless and death-seeking quest was never as simple as one might have hoped. It seemed terribly unfair that there was always planning and preparation, never mind the necessity of traveling to the place where one expected to nobly throw one's life away. In Muckler's experience, there had always been more than enough time for whatever fires had driven him to cool and for doubt to creep in. This was where sheer stubbornness and frightful oaths really showed their merit. In the past, though, he had not had the misfortune to be saddled with a wizard who thought to order his step towards his own doom. Saruman, it seemed, had strong opinions on where the stone would be and exactly how Muckler should make his approach. On one hand, he had clearly made a long study of the city and believed that he knew everything that there was to know about it. On the other, Muckler had spent a century or more in Minas Ithil, both before and after the last alliance. There he had engaged in a variety of activities of varying degrees of legality. So he felt that he had a good grasp of the layout of the city, including a few clandestine corners which Saruman's official maps did not include. His assertions did not end the lecture, so he stared out the window until Saruman paused in his monologue. The stone is still kept in the tower itself, yes? Yes, Saruman snapped, as I have said. Now, as you can see, the gates of Minas Morgul face north, but the most secret way would be to pass beyond the city to the north. As if you are headed for this pass here, Kirith Ungol, and then to turn south along this road. He indicated a place on the map, a path which would take Muckler far out of his way. From there, you may approach Minas Morgul from... Muckler stood and began to gather his things. This plot was madness from the beginning to the end, although something in Saruman's voice made his head feel full of woe. He was not so far gone as to this. He did not trust the old wizard, and maybe he would undertake this fool's errand, but he would not take any path that Saruman laid out for him, and if, by some strange fate, he emerged from Minas Morgul with both the stone and his life, it would not be to Saruman that he would deliver it. Muckler may not want the stone, but there was a small part of him that was proud enough, even now, that he chafed at the thought of one of his father's works used to do yet more harm. There were those in the world whom he trusted to use them with goodness and wisdom. What are you doing? Saruman's voice rang out, and Muckler had to shake his head to clear it. You asked me here to do a task. I shall do it, my way or not at all. If you would govern my every step, then you should make this journey yourself. His voice was high and mewling in his own ears, but it was a relief to find that he still had one. He laughed. Kirith Ungol, I know that you think me a fool, but I will find my own way into Minas Morgul, and I shall not even approach your spider's path. Saruman's eyes flashed. I suppose you think to simply walk through the western gates of the city? Or perhaps you will spirit yourself beyond the walls of the city unseen? Very well, if you will not heed my advice, then go your own way and expect no more aid from me. Nothing would have made him happier, but he could not be rid of Saruman just yet. There's one thing. Ah, now the proud child of Feanor wishes for my wisdom. What an honor to assist so great a lord, Saruman bowed. Nothing like that. Muckler felt his lip curl into a sneer. He felt good. The anger that he had always held close, slicing through the muddle that Saruman made of his thoughts. I have need of a courier, for I wish to send a letter. There's also something that I would like kept safe for my return. Surely such a task is within your grasp. A favor for a favor, as it were. He went to his pack and took up his harp. It whispered to him through its wrappings, but he could not listen to its warnings, or he would not go. This was a poor farewell to a long companion, but this was not a journey that it could make with him. Keep this safe from me, but do not touch it. Of course. The words slithered and twisted, and Muckler felt ill. And the letter? He asked. I need a pen and paper. You'll find them in that chest. Compose your thoughts, but be quick about it. I have greater matters to attend to. He swept from the room, and in the enveloping silence, Muckler considered. Muckler was not afflicted with any hopeful illusions. It likely seemed that he would not return, either with the Ithilstone or without it. He hoped that Halbarad would understand why he had gone, even knowing this, and perhaps he could explain. But it was not the most pressing thing that he needed to say. Beloved, I wish I had called thee so sooner. I wish that I had called thee beloved when thou wert near me to hear it. I wish I had been able to hear it as often as thou wished to say it. I should have hoarded every I love thee, treasures all. I am glad, now, that thou art stubborn and that I was unsuccessful, for at least I have a kind thing to carry me into the places I now go. I have asked Saruman to hold this message for me until November. If I am not returned by then, I fear that I shall not. I have been sent to Mordor, on a fool's errand most likely, almost tailor-made for one like me. If I do not return, tell the sons of Elrond to run no errands for the wizard, for they have no hope of success if I fail. If sparing them this task is all that I achieve, then I shall count my journey a success. I wish that I might have spent more time with thee, Halbarad Dunedain. I shall take the sight of thy terrible dancing with me into the darkness. Remember for me the snows and the waters and our many fires, haylofts and hollow trees, and me beside thee. I did not wish to leave thee this way. I have instructed the bearer of this letter to bring my harp to thee as well. If thou hast no use of it, and wishest not to be so reminded of me, I ask only that thou findest one who will play it in joy, for it is my oldest companion, and I would not have it waste away in my absence. I love thee. Blackbird. He sat still for a long moment when he was finished, then folded the page. There was a candle at the desk, attempting valiantly to keep the gloom of the tower at bay. Muckler tipped it, letting it drip onto the page, soot from the wick mixing with the pallid wax. He pressed his thumb into the hot wax to seal it, disappointed when it did not hurt more. Here, give this letter to Halbarad of the Dunedain. The sons of Elrond will know where to find him, but not yet. Hold until it is certain that I will not return. Let us say end of November. Send my harp to him as well. It was hard to give the letter to Saruman, harder still to consider that it was all that might remain of him. Nothing for Elrond? Tell him that I'm sorry. Muckler left the tower of Orthanc, watched by the many eyes of Isengard, as he had been when he arrived. He did not turn back. When Muckler had passed from the sight of his spies, Saruman took the letter and cast it, unread, upon the fire. When Muckler had last visited Minas Tirith, it had been during the stewardship of Egalmoth, the city still fresh with revival, the white tower newly rebuilt, and the whole city flushed and forward-looking. He had been an unwanted stain on its streets, stalking through the bright courtyards like a revenant come to haunt the city with its face turned toward the sun. He liked it better now. Oh, the buildings were still fair and well kept, the streets clean, but even from a distance the empty homes stood out like missing teeth, stones crumbling at the corners, the great white tower standing like bleached bones of a great beast already picked clean. Muckler would not stay long, but he hoped to find a few other scavengers picking at the carcass. The neglect was first apparent at Rammas Ekor. He had been prepared to scale the wall, but where it met Eret Nimrais, it was a little more than a tumble of stones. The Pelennor stretched ahead of him, still rich and fertile, with pastures and farmlands, fed by the spring floods of the Anduin. A pleasant land, so why did he feel so strange? Why did his nerves sing with the song of battle that he could not see? Tears sprang to his eyes, and he did not wipe them away, only pulled up his hood and hastened on. Night was falling when he reached the outer wall of Minas Tirith. He paused. He could see no watchers, and perhaps the guard would have admitted him without questions, at least during the day, but the secrecy was a hard habit to break, so it was over the city wall he went. It saved him the work of concocting a lie, in any case, for his business would not have pleased the lords of the city. Atop the wall, he paused beside a turret and looked around, trying to reunite the memory with sight. There, that would be the Rath Gellerdyne, and unless much had changed, he should find an inn. He leapt down from the wall, and followed the shadows at the edge of the courtyard into the thoroughfare, grateful that the lamplighters had not yet reached this end of the street. His way was marked instead by bright bursts of chatter, the voices of men clattering like stones in the night. Maklar turned towards the sound. The old guest house lived up to its name. Maklar had patronized this very same establishment on his last visit to the city. He spared a smile for the short memories of men, for Maklar had been banned from there over 300 years ago. Now, though, the barman poured a pint of ale for his guest without batting an eye, and Maklar took the corner to watch the room. It began to feel as the folk of the city left their duties, began to find their way to the inn for companionship before going on to their homes. These were respectable folk, and thus not the ones he was looking for. Still, though, amidst their inane chatter was hidden some things worth hearing. Gossip that would tell him how things stood in the city. After they left, they would be followed by those sought forgetfulness, not company. These would be silent, focused on their cups, and Maklar would feel at ease in their company, but they were still not the ones that he sought. After that, though, another crowd would come. Those who came here to do business of a different sort. Those whose day began when the sun set. It was a shame he had arrived so early. Perhaps he should have walked about the place, sought out his old haunts, rather than torment himself with hours of inaction. But he was in a mood for misery, and thus he stayed in his seat, shoulder hunched and hood up. He thought that the mundane conversations would be the worst thing the evening could hold, but then the singer arrived. There were many skilled singers among men, for those whose art could rival any that Maklar could summon. It was his opinion that their short lives lent an urgency and fire to their songs that the Eldar could not rival, and that even an unskilled singer could find power and feeling in a song that they loved. This man was not such a singer, which is not to say that he was a poor performer. It was only to say that there was an element of imitation, a whiff of pretension, a heavy dose of striving and clawing and trying to be anything other than what one was. Not to put a fine point on it, but he reminded Maklar of his own younger self, and it made him a bit queasy. It was an extra misfortune that he had chosen to style himself as a student of an elf minstrel, one thought lost. "I was the son of a shipwright," he began, and Maklar would have liked to have told him that his audience was not listening, but it would not have stopped him. "And as young men are wont to do, I went wandering along the shores. A storm came up, and I took a shelter in a cave, hollowed out by the lashing of the waves. When the storm passed, I ventured forth beneath the stars, and I beheld a wanderer. His hair was long and dark, clear grey eyes that gazed ever westward, seeking his home, his face fair and sad as he sang." The minstrel paused, looking meaningfully around the room. "When he saw me, he smiled, and he said, 'Art thou a singer?' He played his fingers across the strings, and Maklar winced. 'This is the song that he taught to me.'" "How kind of you, brother, teaching all these wayward mortals. At least this one didn't have to swear an oath." Gilligrum stretched out long and lean on the table in front of him, heedless of the tankards of ale and the elbows of men nearby. He was pale as ever, and it made the trickle of blood that dripped from his lips and splattered to the table all the brighter. "Just wait," said Maklar. The minstrel began "The Hound and the Maiden," and Maklar hoped that he would not be judged too harshly for having inspired this abomination. "Oh dear," Gilligrum laughed, and the fledglings of the arrows that had pierced him shivered in his mirth. "Greater than any horned hart. Really, Kana, did you ever even see Beden?" "It is poetry," grumbled Maklar. "Something rather outside of your expertise. And no, I did not. That's one story that I'm pleased to leave myself out of. The men at the next table over glanced at him and shifted slightly away from him. Strange that they were suspicious of him when his brother was the one bleeding in their beers. Of course. Not too good to help yourself to the aftermath, though. I remember you wetting that spear of yours well in the blood of Doriath. Gilligan leaned back on the table, the one in his gut gaping open. Why do you never seem pleased to see me? Too important for your little brother? Go away. You'll have to make me, Gilligan taunted, the way he had when he was a child. Muckler could make him cry if he wanted to, but he did not have a stomach for it now. The minstrel finished his song. Alas, but my fate shall not be as kind as Beren's. Let me sing to you now of the terrible oath, the one that holds even my mortal soul in its grip. Muckler almost spilled his ale in his haste to be gone. Gilligan followed him out to the courtyard, of course. He stepped silent, but for the steady dripping of blood on the stone flags. Surely someone would slip on it. He wanted a pipe, but he was a little afraid of what the reminder would do to him. As it was, when he first entered the smoke, he thought it was his own memories that assailed him. It didn't smell like the shire leaf, though. It was sweet, resinous, and made his head spin. He followed it with a hunter's smile that had Gilligan smirking when he drifted beside him. He found his prey in a narrow place between two empty workshops, 4 men leaning against walls and passing a pipe between them. They froze when Muckler stepped across the opening to the alleyway, and he could see the shift in their posture as they straightened and laid hands on daggers. Careful, brother, whispered Gilligan. Be pretty for these. You knew how to do that once. So did Gilligan, but his phantom had fled, leaving clean stones and the echo of his jibes. He had never been much help. Still, Muckler let his posture go soft and languid, holding on loosely to his spear and lowering his eyes. He was not interested, and he was not a threat. Are you lost? One of them hissed, snappish with fright, but ashamed of it, even through the drug. The inn's over yonder. No. One of them came close and looked at Muckler's face, stopping short of grabbing his chin. That's not what you're seeking, is it? We could show you some fun, pretty thing. Muckler did not lift his eyes, but he chuckled, his stomach roiling. Maybe he had had enough drink after all. What a smart one you are. He might not have his brother's skill at flattery, but the man did not seem to notice. You're not from here. What do you want? And what are you willing to pay for it? His pupils were large, dark in the little lamplight that reached them, and Muckler wondered how long it would take him to learn anything useful. A party of orcs crossed the river 2 days ago, Muckler said, grateful for the gossip he had heard in the inn. What was done with them? They were killed, of course. The steward's son saw to that. And what then? Asked Muckler, soft, wheedling. The man laughed. When I first saw you, I thought you might be sweet, but you got some strange tastes. Enough of this. Let Gilligan flirt. He'd do things his own way. He pushed back his hood and met the man's eyes. I want to know what became of their weapons, of their armor. I will pay. The man swallowed, but, to his credit, did not otherwise react. This way, he said, and led Muckler further down the alley. The other 3 men remained behind, and Muckler pretended not to hear the things that they said as he passed between them. At the end of the passage, the man paused and looked carefully down the adjoining street, then crossed quickly, motioning for Muckler to follow. I'm taking you to, well, we call him the Buzzard, but Tonsa, but don't tell him that. He coughed and gave Muckler another sideways look. He's got some sort of connection with in the guard. I don't know about it, and I don't want to know about it, but sometimes he has the sort of things you're wanting. Down another dark alley, and they came to an iron gate. Here you are. I want you to know that I'm putting my neck out and helping you. If you don't deal fair with the Buzzard, it's me who'll come after for payment. Muckler lifted an eyebrow. Why are you helping me, then? The man shrugged and grinned. This city, it used to be something. Something worth a story. I don't know what you're up to, but it makes me feel like maybe I'm touching a corner of some old tale. What a fool. I thank you. The man laughed at that. You know, pretty, I've heard you kind can be sweet. I want you to show me how grateful you are. Come find me later. Muckler nodded and leaned close, lips to his ear, inhaling the incense musk of the drug and the sickly smell of the man's sweat. If you call me sweet again, I shall cut out your tongue and nail it to the roof of Ecthelion's tower for the crows. He patted the man's shoulder and opened the gate. End of chapter 14. Stay tuned.